Welcome back to the Strength and Honor podcast. This is Coach Biasotti. It's March 20th, 2016. Today I want to talk a little bit about the program design and what we do with the Raider football team, our methods and our process in the offseason to get our guys ready to play football in the fall. It's a 6-month training period. I think the first thing that's important for you guys to know out there is who has influenced me, what organizations, what individuals kind of lay the foundation for what we do for this 6-month training period. And the first organization is the National Academy of Sports Medicine and their performance design. The blueprint for what we do is what's called the optimum performance training model. The NASM is a very clinically based, scientific oriented research organization that kind of looks at exercise through the lens of science. So everything we do in terms of our goals, our reps, our rest in between, the how long should our workout be, things along those lines are grounded right in the National Academy of Sports Medicine. The other influence on our program is a guy who's a legend in the industry in terms of functional exercise movements or functional fitness. He's a guy named Mike Boyle. And a large number of our exercises are drawn right out of his playbook. He's the type of guy who's always tinkering, always kind of revising. He's always learning, and that's what I love about him. And the other thing is that his exercises mimic whatever you want to do. If you're a person who is just working out to be physically fit, he's going to mimic in his exercise selection your everyday activities. For our football team, we're trying to mimic what we do on the football field. So it's very functional, and his stuff has been great for us in the past. And then finally, I'm very fortunate to be able to work at St. Thomas. It's a place where a lot of high-functioning, you run into a lot of high-functioning people, and I cultivated and developed a friendship with a guy named Bill Ferran. He's the longest tenured strength and conditioning coach at the Miami Heat. He's been there, I think, for 25 years. And whenever we get into a situation where I'm kind of lost, I can always pick up the phone and give him a call. I remember in 2009, an injury that was running through our team, or seemed to be a theme, was we had some hamstring issues. And I was able to pick up the phone and call him. And not only were we able to discuss what happened in the off season, but what he would recommend is, what do we do now in terms of kind of solving this problem. So he's a great resource. So those are the influences, and those are the things I think about, and those are the ideas that I draw from when I'm getting ready to design our program. But this is it right here. This is something called the Optimum Performance Training Model, or OPT. And if you think about it, it's really simple. You want to crawl before you walk. You want to walk before you run. You want to run before you jump. So here, we're always going to start out for about 3 weeks. Everything is kind of broken up in our program into 3 or 4 week increments, because we have that time after football season. We give them a break. Then we break it up in those increments, because our goal is to be ready for spring football. Then after spring football ends, we roughly have the same amount of time. So we start from the beginning and we break it up in increments again of 3 to 4 weeks. So we'll spend 3 or 4 weeks in the stabilization period, then the same amount of time in the strength period, and then finally we'll spend that same amount of time in the power period. But we never ever leave. We might be focusing on one specific goal, but we're always working stabilization, strength, and power. It just depends on what we're focusing on at that time. So right now, we're in the strength phase. We've left the stabilization phase. Again, never completely, because in the stabilization phase, what we're trying to do is, just think of it as general fitness. Think about it as like, establishing that your connective tissues, your joints, your brain from a balance standpoint, your muscle endurance, that your body is ready to go to the next phase, which is what we're in now, which is putting on muscle mass. So stabilization phase, think about it as you're building your foundation. Or I've heard this analogy before. If your body athletically, if you're a cannon, do you want to place your cannon on something unstable like a rowboat, or do you want to place your cannon on something very stable like a battleship. So obviously in the stabilization phase, we're building our battleship. Okay, our muscular endurance, again, I'm going to reiterate myself, our muscular endurance, we want to make sure that we're stable at all of our joints. So when we fire that cannon, we're not going to get hurt. Okay, because we get to the power phase, if you don't have balance and then you don't have strength, when you get in the power phase, you're going to have some issues. Okay, and you might not, we want our players to be able to make it back to the next play. We want our players to make it through a full season. That's why we're training all of these phases. Okay, so right now, currently where we're at, actually we're almost through the strength phase, but we're right, in the center or in the last half of the strength phase where we are with our program right now with our football team. So I'm gonna talk about our stations now and then jump to it again. So we have 7 stations, and it's roughly 6 minutes a station, and we have our primary exercise and our secondary exercise. So our players we have 6 groups, and our players probably spend about 6 or 7 minutes in each station. So roughly for our workout, our stations last for about 45 minutes. So let me just kind of I gave you an overview philosophically. I want to talk about just kind of like how it looks from a process standpoint. So if we were fortunate enough, and we were fortunate enough this year to win the state championship, probably 2 weeks. So we played that game in mid-December. Probably 2 weeks after that, we're already thinking about, okay, we're already planning out the next 6 months. And how do we do that? So we bring in our juniors who are going to be leaders next year in the team, and we have what's called Lab Rats. And what Lab Rats is we just demo each exercise that we're going to employ in our design this year. We have them do it on video, and then we teach them how we do it, and we do it until it looks right, and then we upload that Lab Rat video to YouTube for the rest of our team to look at it as a teaching tool. But really, we're just seeing, does this make sense? Does the timing of it make sense? When they rotate, will it make sense? How long will it take? What do they feel like afterwards? And we're a little bit redundant because we do this every year. Because again, we're going to talk about this in a few minutes. We're a learning organization. We're constantly trying to get better. So so if we won the state championship in mid-December, they're coming in probably early January, and our leaders are going to demo our exercises. So this is just a demo of standing broad jump, which would be in our first phase, our stability phase, as a power exercise in our stability phase. So that gives you guys an idea. And again, this is just practice before practice, before we bring in the 130 or 140 guys that are going to be in this weight room. So after we do the Lab Rats, we build everything out. We upload all the videos to YouTube. Then we upload those videos to our training app called Train Heroic, which I'm going to talk about later in another podcast. We have our first team meeting. So this team meeting is going to take place probably the beginning of February. Okay, and we're going to start lifting probably around February 10th to February 15th. So this is Coach Harriet addressing everybody in our program for the first time, and he's going to talk about the mechanics a little bit, maybe 1 or 2%. Get your physicals in. These are when the workouts begin. These are the days. These are the times. These are the protocols when you're going to miss, things along those lines. But really, our program is based on family. He has a message. It's based on character. It's based on doing the right things. It's based on adjusting to certain events that happen in the world, like the rise of social media. He talks a lot about interdependence. So I'm just going to go ahead and play this so you can get a feel for what we do. But I want you to see the progression. It is, if we achieve our goal, winning state championship. 2 weeks later, we're planning. January, Lab Rats with our team leaders, filming, teaching, seeing if everything will work. 2 weeks after that, after we get that done, we upload it to YouTube. We have our first team meeting with our program. Okay, then this is where we are now. So I'm just going to go ahead and play the video.
Pay attention to what I'm saying. Look at me in the face, pay attention, get your eyes on me. And some of you guys need to start understanding that it's important to utilize your eyes when you're communicating with other people in a professional manner. All right? On top of that professional mannerism, there's advancements in technology, resources that society has enabled you to use, which is a social media tool. Most of you guys are on Twitter, Instagram, things of that nature. You got all these inappropriate names, or you go out and create a Finsta or whatever, all this fake stuff, and you misrepresent yourself. We are one big family. We have the same exact last name. What's our last name? St. Thomas Aquinas. What's our last name? Good. St. Thomas Aquinas Raiders. That's our last name. So if we have the same last name, whatever you say and do affects me, whatever I say and do affects you, it affects Coach. That it's an extension of the program, our football program. We're an extension of his track program. We are a family.
So again, the message is we are a family. The message is character. The message is whatever we do is going to affect you. Whatever you do is going to affect us. It's that interdependence, because we're on a journey. We have something to do, and we cannot do it alone. So that's exactly what he's speaking to. So that's the first meeting of our program, and as you can see, the message is not really about what we're going to be doing in the weight room. It's what we're going to be doing as human beings, what we're going to be doing as a family. Okay, so let me see what the next slide is. All right, in our program, in our off-season program, and this is, again, Coach Harriet has been here for a year. I've had the pleasure of working with 3 great head coaches, but he instituted a uniform this year in the workouts. We never had one before, so I had no experience with it. I can just say this, what I think about uniforms. I think it reinforces our brand. I think it reinforces the concept of team. I know the players, they like getting uniforms. I mean, who doesn't like getting nice clothes that they feel they can wear and they can feel good about, they can feel good about themselves when they're wearing them. You get this sense of equality, because you could be a 5-star linebacker or you could be a freshman, but you guys are all wearing the same thing. I think the one thing I think about too is, in the age of social media, and I can think about this before because I've been involved in the, doing the Raider off-season conditioning for 10 years, is that when I look at videos of the past, or I kind of reflect back on the past, guys were coming into our weight room really wearing whatever they want. And some of this stuff was a distraction, but it was something that they would wear to LA Fitness or wherever. But everyone has cell phones. What's appropriate for somebody is inappropriate for somebody else. And so I think also in terms of, we are a brand, no matter what, it's whatever one person wears, as Coach Harriet talked about in his first team meeting, whatever you do is going to affect all of us. So if you come in here into our weight room facility with an inappropriate shirt on, and someone takes a picture of that, well, then someone could kind of extrapolate, hey, what's going on in the off-season conditioning workout. So I think for all those reasons, the brand, we're a team, we have a mission, it being sort of a gift, people like getting, shirts and shorts. And also in the age of social media and preventing distractions, that a uniform is really important for what we do now. Okay, and it's holding them accountable, because they're going to be held accountable, in practice, in regular football practice, and in the games. This is also another thing that Coach Harriet introduced this past season, this idea of shake it up. And I have to be honest with you, when I first was introduced to this myself as a coach, you're always, I don't care what anybody says, everybody's going to be a little resistant to change, especially cultural change, especially when we've had a lot of success at St. Thomas in the last 10 years. So when someone comes in and wants to institute a change, your immediate reaction is, I'm not the type of guy, I'm pretty open to change, but there was a little resistance, like, why are we doing this? This is kind of a wasted motion. But this is what I got out of Shake It Up, all right? I never realized that some of our players, and maybe more players than I thought, were insecure, not just in football, but in their life. They're teenagers. They're going through a lot out there. They have a lot on their plate. Who knows what they're going through at home, who knows what they're going through academically. So they come into the weight room, and Coach Harriet explained it to me like this, and this is how I kind of wrap my brain around Shake It Up. Shake It Up is just what happens, right before our workout begins. So our workouts start at 3 o'clock. The players are kind of getting up there at 2:45. So this is a requirement. They have to greet every single person in the weight room with a firm handshake, or kind of like a hug, look each other in the eyes and say, hey, how you doing? Okay, so this is the way I think about it. And also reflect back on when you're listening out there, when you felt uncomfortable when you were around strangers. How can you perform when you're not confident? How can you be confident when you're not comfortable? How can you be comfortable if you're insecure? So this kind of like breaks down all the barriers, but there's a side benefit, and the side benefit's probably more important than what we're trying to establish here. The side benefit is as men, as regularly functioning human beings out in the world, that this is like really step one as a social skill. You're going to have to do this. It might mean the difference between getting a job or not getting a job. It will certainly make a difference on how you're perceived. So I think Shake It Up is a great way and an important thing we do in our workouts, and it's a great way to start our workouts here. I'll play the clip. So again, that's what we do before every practice, and I think it lets everyone's guard down, and it gets us ready to compete with our brothers, with our teammates. We feel comfortable competing, and we also feel comfortable. I mean, from a player standpoint and from a coaching standpoint, is like, hey, come on, you got more in you, and I'm not doing this to get on you. I'm not doing this to make you feel bad. I'm doing this because we love you. I'm doing this because we're all in the same. We have the same purpose. We all have the same objectives. We're a team. We're family. So that's one of the reasons why I now believe in Shake It Up, and I think it's a great thing, and I would encourage it for every program. And it speaks to something that's pretty popular right now, but I don't mean popular as in fad. I think very, very relevant, and that's emotional intelligence, or something we call EQ. And we're going to have a whole other separate podcast on that, or ScreenCast, sometime in the future, because we really have invested a lot in that, and probably 15 or 20 minutes of our program deals with EQ, because we want our guys to have empathy. We want to build team. We want to build leadership. We want our leaders to have the ability to, attract followers and make them go on this journey that we need to go on. That's again part of our story, which I mentioned in an earlier podcast, and the power of stories and how they can improve your program. But as we move forward in program design, so just to recap a little bit, I talked about the influences, I talked about our thought process. Now I'm really kind of knee deep in the actual process, steps 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. And the next step after Shake It Up is attendance. And even something like attendance, if you view yourself as a learning organization, it's very important. And a learning organization is how we view our off-season workouts. Is we're just trying to get better in every single facet, and we're continually reflecting on what we do. So our attendance, we've worked on it. It's an issue. It continues to be an issue. It's not like we're a college program where these guys are going to class a couple hours a day. They have a full day. They have homework at night. Some of them don't have a car. Some of them have other issues. Some of them have nutrition issues. So attendance, not just from the standpoint of taking it, but from the standpoint of our players being physically present. We constantly have to look at it and rework it to make it better, to make sure our player's there. But in terms of the mechanics, we're down to about 90 seconds taking attendance daily for between 110 and 130 guys in our program. When we first started, we were at 5 minutes. And obviously, through things like Shake It Up, we got better because people started knowing each other, and attendance is on the leaders of every group. So right then after attendance, we go right into our warm-up. And so again, just so you know the big picture, our workout is typically 90 minutes to 120 minutes. So we spend 10 minutes after Shake It Up, after a tennis doing our warm-up. And what do we want? We want mobility in our joints. We want our muscles warm. We want our muscles activated properly so they have the proper length-tension relationship. Okay, we want all the muscles that are supposed to be firing in the right sequence. And then additionally, we want blood flow. So, I'm sitting down right now giving this podcast. I'm probably at 15% in terms of my blood vessels opening up, delivering oxygen and nutrients to my muscles. Once we go through a 10-minute warm-up, my blood vessels would be, in this warm-up, would be opened up to about 75 or 80%. And that's just what they're going to need for their engine to be warm to get into the very serious, rigorous workout that we do for the next 45 minutes. So again, after warm-up, we get back into our attendance groups, our 6 groups, and then we put each group in a station. We have 7 stations. Right now, we're in our strength phase, so I have that here in front of you. And I'm just going to give you a run-through of exactly every movement or every exercise in our phase 2 upper strength phase. So we're in about we're in week 6, okay, headed towards spring football. And these are the exercises we selected. We're stable now. We've gone through the stabilization phase. We're generally fit. Okay, we have muscle endurance. What are we trying to do now? We're trying to put some muscle mass on. The reality in football from our perspective is we want to be there first. Okay, whatever that might mean, whether it be tackling, blocking, or across the goal line, we want to be there first. The next thing is we want to be there the most. Okay, so we want to be there with the most. Okay, with the most good muscle weight that we have, because we know there's going to be contact. We want to be there first. We want to be able to survive the contact, and then we want to be able to get back up and do it all over again and minimize injury. So the stabilization phase in our mind is your battleship. Okay, the strength phase in our mind is the muscle mass being there with the most. Okay, so our battleship's going to protect us. We're going to be there with the most. Our next phase, our power phase, okay, we're going to be there first, and we're going to be there explosively. Okay, so all these things kind of fit together, but that is our mindset. So right now we're in the mindset of putting muscle mass on. Our rep range for our primary exercise in these stations is about 6. But you'll see we have things built in, okay? We have some stability movements. We have some core movements. And you'll see that as you watch the next video. Okay, so that gives you an idea of what we're doing right now in just one aspect, our upper body phase, in the strength category, where we're at right now. Just gives you an example of the exercise selection and what we're doing. And even as I watch that video with you guys, I feel like, and that's why we do lab rats, because I see technical things or fundamental things that I think you should be doing that I even missed when we filmed this. So again, just an example of our program design and where we're at. So another thing we're going to be talking about in a later podcast, and I mentioned this with Shake It Up, is that EQ or emotional intelligence. The one thing that we demand is enthusiasm, and we demand that because it's contagious and it can ripple out through your team, and it can actually cause someone to come into a weight room in not the best mental state. And when a significant number of people are enthusiastic, even if it's manufactured, it reaches a tipping point, and you can get much more productivity and performance out of your workout. So when we rotate, we ring a bell and we demand everybody give a very loud hey, okay? Okay, so that's going to happen whenever we rotate in our groups. Again, demanding enthusiasm. And then again, if you talk about the way from a time frame, how we're set up, 90 minutes to 2 hours, we're going to do some type of emotional exercise, emotional intelligence exercise. So this is Coach Harriet, addressing the team on the importance of EQ and on the importance of, you don't really need to take these emotional exercises that seriously because they're fun, okay? So, and they're designed to do one thing, and that's to bring us together. So it's not like this strict military boot camp environment. It's designed to bring us together and enhance communications. And so this is just Coach Harriet talking a little bit about emotional intelligence, or EQ.
I said, listen, remember we've been talking about EQ, okay? Emotional quotient. Very similar to IQ, all right? But the emotional aspect of what we're doing is what's going to separate us from everyone else. This is something that you guys really got to focus your efforts on, all right? Being in the right mental and spiritual state. That will ensure that you have high EQ. Okay, if you have high EQ, then it's going to develop authentic confidence, which in turn translates into a productive performance. Remember, it's not that complicated. You are going to have to work your EQ in here. Just like you work your weights to develop your muscles for strength and endurance and things of that nature. Well, the emotional aspect needs to be exercised as well. How do you exercise that? Encouragement. Focusing on the task at hand. All right, having a positive attitude. Understanding your purpose for why you're in this weight room and not just kind of going through the motions and letting the past stop. Taking advantage of every single rep while you're here. Every day is an opportunity for you to get better. Each day we take advantage of brings us closer to achieving our best. You go! We go!
So again, that's something we're going to stress in a later podcast and talk about how important that is in our program. And then we have emotional intelligence exercises, or EQ exercises, essentially just guys getting to know each other better, feeling more comfortable. All the things that we talked about in Shake It Up that we're going to talk about later. Gamification, and we have a whole other section. We have a section of our podcast on emotional intelligence, or EQ. We have a whole other section on gamification, which is going to be our next podcast. But so again, 90 minutes to 120 minute workout. We're probably doing 10 to 15 minutes EQ exercises, 10 to 15 minutes gamification. And there's a whole reason why we do this. And we feel like it kind of like energizes our workout to it brings us to another level or another plateau. So here's one of our top wide receivers and one of our top cornerbacks going on at representing their different groups, offense and defense, in this tug of war contest. And you can just see the enthusiasm it brings to the table. I want to stop there too, because if you listen to my last podcast about we have a better story, we are constantly preaching that. We have a better story. We have tradition. This is what's supposed to happen. We're on a path hitting, going toward our destiny. It's over. They believe it. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. But in anything we do in video, social media, there's always some sort of message, okay, either about our past and where we're going, about what our goals are right now. So we have a better story. We've been saying that over and over again. And then there's a Greek philosopher who talks about, if you have 100 guys, 9 essentially, or 10 of those are not meant to be there. 80 of them are just targets. 9 or 10 of them are fighters, but the one is a warrior, and he will bring the others back. And that's one of our chapters in our story this year, is where we ask our players as a team, we ask them in their groups, who is going to be the one? Who is going to take this team and put them on their backs during this workout, during this off season, during this practice, during this game, during this quarter, during this play, that's going to allow us to be successful? And really the goal is that on our team anyway, that we just don't find one, that everybody thinks they're the one. So at any moment, any one of our players can make a play. It's not necessarily on the football field. It's make a play today during this rep in this exercise. So getting back to gamification and what we feel it does for our program in the off season. So all you have to do is look at the expressions on their faces to know that they were fully immersed, fully in a state of joy. And we're going to harness that and bring that back into the weight room. And again, it could be something simple. It could be rock, paper, scissors. It could be a game of charades. It could be a physical contest. It could be the whole team playing tag. It could be representatives of the group. Okay, whatever it is that we do on that day, we use it as a reward, or we can take it away and say, you know what, you guys aren't putting in the effort that we expect, and use it as a consequence. But it's a really important, it's a really important technology that we use because it builds this momentum, and we're going to talk about that in another podcast. Lastly, we have the thing that is really going to tax us mentally, and we're going to attack the core, and we're going to attack our joints, and we're going to attack our willpower, and we call this team grinder. And it's usually either a series of yoga poses or animal movements or core movements or movements at the joints or holds that we're going to do continuously until our players, and appropriately, but until our players reach a state of fatigue. And what we really want them to do is what we call hold the rope. Okay, and even when they're mentally and physically exhausted, to get out of this team grinder, they're going to not only have to do what we ask them to do as a unit, but while they're doing that, they're going to have to look around and make sure their teammates are doing it, because they're responsible for their teammates. And not only that, they might, at the height of their fatigue, they might be asked to sing a Christmas carol, to do something just unrelated, so it can be over with. And they're going to have to do it with enthusiasm while they're mentally and physically fatigued. So here's just a little bit of our team grinder, and this is almost at the very end of our 90-minute or 120-minute session as a team. So that's giving you guys an idea how we end our practices. And it's grueling. And sometimes I tell them that if, obviously, we're doing this podcast and I don't know what it appears like to you guys. It might appear that we have like this seamless, flawless program. We don't. Okay, we don't. We have a lot of imperfections in our program, and we're constantly trying to fix those imperfections, and they always pop up. And once you put something down, something else pops up. So that's why I refer to us as a learning organization. But we're going to change the team grinder. So here it's more core oriented. It's more stability on your shoulders. There's a lot of glute activation, a lot of lower back with the Supermans. We're in the strength phase now. We've completely changed up our team grinder, and we've gone to some of these animal movements, okay, like bear walks or like some other things that are kind of like taxing your range of motion and putting you in these positions that are really uncomfortable but beneficial from a mental standpoint. After the team grinder, we do a team stretch. We do this in silence, and then we have one of our leaders do the team stretch and the cadence. And then there's usually a message from one of the coaches about doing the right thing in school or how we felt about today's workout or some kind of scheduling thing. And then we break it. So again, thank you for listening to this podcast. If you have any questions, please feel free and reach out to me. And we'll see you next time. All right, signing off, Coach Biasotti.